All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. As you know, we just had the beginning of chapter 11. Um, Star was at school, and obviously her friend Haley's prejudice and basically her overall insensitivity were even more obvious when they used Khalil's death for a protest to get her to class, and Haley's just happy to get out of a test. So her relationship with Star is pretty much done at this point. And generally, or overall, Star refused to join the protest. So she decided to stay behind. And she and a few of her friends talk about protesting the non-protest. So it's especially insensitive for the rich white kids to disconnect from Khalil. And they have no connection with the experience that he's gone through, yet they're using his murder as an easy way to excuse class. So just kind of a sad example of society there. And now we're waiting to see what Mr. Lewis is going to say at Maverick Store, or out front of Maverick Store. They have a news conference set up where the news team is there. And I think they're a little worried. What do you think they might be worried about? I'd love to be in front of you guys to hear your questions, but I know a couple of you would say, yeah, talking or snitching. And as we know, snitching is one of the most dangerous offenses in Garden Heights. So if people like King might use snitching to their advantage. So hopefully Mr. Lewis doesn't say anything, but I think the foreshadowing, the predicting is on the wall. So Mr. Lewis, his action might get himself in some trouble, but we're about to find out. And let's see. It says, please don't put Mr. Lewis on TV, Star's last wish. And then we hear the countdown. 4, 3, 2, 1. Speaking of countdown, I'll start our timer so we don't go over. That's right, Joe, the reporter says. I'm here with Mr. Cedric Lewis Jr., who witnessed the incident involving the officers today. Can you tell us what you saw, Mr. Lewis? He ain't witness to nothing, Daddy tells us. Was in his shop the whole time. I told him what happened. I sure can, Mr. Lewis says. Them boys pulled those officers out their car. They weren't doing nothing either, just sitting there, got beat like dogs. Ridiculous, you hear me? Re-damn-diculous. Somebody's going to turn Mr. Lewis into a meme. He's making a fool out of himself and doesn't even know it. Do you think that it was a retaliation for the Khalil Harris case, the reporter asks. I sure do, which is stupid. These thugs been terrorizing Garden Heights for years. How they going to get mad now? What, because they didn't kill them themselves? The president and all them searching for terrorists, but I'll name one right now. They can come get. Don't do it, Mr. Lewis, Daddy prays. Don't do it. Of course he does. His name, King, and he lived right here in Garden Heights, probably the biggest drug dealer in the city. He over that King Lord's gang. Come get him if you want to get somebody. Wasn't nobody but his boys who did that to them cops anyway. We sick of this. Somebody march about that. Daddy covers Sakani's eyes. Every cuss word that follows equals $1 in Sakani's jar if he hears it. Daddy hisses. And then as you see the S words repeated. This mother, he snitched, says Seven. On live TV, I add. Daddy keeps saying, shh, shh, shh. Do you think that the curfew the mayor announced today will prevent incidents like this? The reporter asked Mr. Lewis. I look at Daddy. What curfew? So obviously big news happening there. He takes his hand off Sakani's ears. Every business in Garden Heights got to close by 9, and nobody can be in the streets after 10. Lights out, like in prison. So you'll be home tonight? Sakani asks. Daddy smiles and pulls him closer. Yeah, man. After you do your homework, I can show you a thing or two on Madden. The reporter wraps up her interview. Daddy waits until she and the camera operator leave and then goes over to Mr. Lewis. You crazy, he asks. What, because I told the truth, Mr. Lewis says? Again, used his most powerful voice, or his most powerful weapon, his voice. Man, you can't be going on live TV snitching like that. You a dead man walking. You know that, right? I ain't scared of anyone, Mr. Lewis says real loud, for everybody to hear. You scared of him? Nah, but I know how the game works. I'm too old for games. You ought to be too. Mr. Lewis, listen. Nah, you listen here, boy. I fought a war, came back and fought one here. See this? He lifts up his pants leg, revealing a plaid sock over a prosthetic. Lost it in the war. This right here. So he lost his leg. He lifts his shirt to his underarm. There's a thin pink scar stretching from his back to his swollen belly. Got it after some white boys cut me, because I drank from their fountain. He lets his shirt fall down. I done faced a whole lot worse than some so-called king. Ain't nothing he can do but kill me. And if that's how I gotta go for speaking the truth, that's how I gotta go. So, Mr. Lewis has just revealed that he's lost a leg at war. He has a scar from having been stabbed after drinking from their fountain. What do you think that means? That's right. Mr. Lewis is colored, and he was drinking from a white person's fountain back when we had segregation. Um, so another history lesson there when people couldn't drink from the same water fountain. And in this case, someone got injured for it. You don't get it, Daddy says. Yeah, I do. Hell, I get you, walking around here claiming you ain't a gangster no more, claiming you trying to change stuff, but still following all and don't touch and that don't snitch mess. And you teaching them kids the same thing, ain't you? King's still controlling your dumb ass, and you too, stupid to realize it. Stupid? How you gonna call me stupid when you're one snitching on live TV? A familiar whoop whoop sound alarms us. Oh God. The patrol car with flashing lights cruises down the street. It stopped next to Daddy and Mr. Lewis. Two officers get out. One black, one white. Their hands linger too close to the guns on their waists. No, no, no. We got a problem here? The black one asks, looking squarely at Daddy. He's bald just like Daddy, but older, taller, bigger. No, sir, officer, Daddy says. His hands that were once in his jeans pockets are visible at the sides. You sure about that? The younger white one asks. It didn't seem that way to us. We were just talking, officers, Mr. Lewis says, much softer than he was minutes ago. His hands are at his sides now, too. His parents must have had the talk with him when he was 12. So again, the talk about how to behave when police officers are around. To me, it looks like this young man was harassing you, sir, the black one says, still looking at Daddy. He hasn't looked at Mr. Lewis yet. I wonder if it's because Mr. Lewis isn't wearing an NWEA t-shirt. NWEA, a famous group. You may want to Google that one. The N-word with attitude. You can find out some more on your own Google research. Or because there aren't tattoos all on his arms? Or is it because he's not wearing somewhat baggy jeans and a backwards cap? You got some ID on you, the black cop asked Daddy. Sure, sir, I was about to go back to my store. I said, do you have some ID on you? My hands shake. Breakfast, lunch, and everything else churns in my stomach, ready to come up my throat. They're going to take Daddy from me. What's going on? I turn around. Tim, Mr. Rubin's nephew, walks over to us. People have stopped on the sidewalk across the street. I'm going to reach for my ID, Daddy says. It's in my back pocket, all right? Daddy, I say. Daddy keeps his eyes on the officer. Y'all go in the store, all right? It's okay. We don't move, though. Daddy's hand slowly goes to his back pocket, and I look from his hands to theirs, watching to see if they're going to make a move for their guns. Daddy removes his wallet, the leather one I bought him for Father's Day with his initials embossed on it. He shows it to them. See, my ID is in here. His voice has never sounded so small. The black officer takes the wallet and opens it. Oh, he says. Maverick Carter. He exchanges a look with his partner. Both of them look at me. My heart stops. They've realized I'm the witness. There must be a file that lists my parents' names on it, or the detectives blabbed, and now everyone at the station knows our names. Or they could have gotten it from Uncle Carlos somehow. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And if something happens to Daddy, the black officer looks at him. Get on the ground, hands behind your back. But on the ground, face down, he yells. Now. Daddy looks at us. His expression apologizes for the fact that we have to see this. He gets down on one knee and lowers himself to the ground face down. His hands go behind his back and his fingers interlock. Where's that camera operator now? Why can't this be on the news? Now, wait a minute, officer, Mr. Lewis says. Me and him were just talking. Sir, go inside, the white cop tells him. But he didn't do anything, Seven says. Boy, go inside, the black cop says. No, that's my father. And Seven, Daddy yells. Even though he's lying on the concrete, there's enough authority in his voice to make Seven shut up. The black officer checks Daddy while his partner glances around at all of the onlookers. There's quite a few of us now. Miss Yvette and a couple of her clients stand in her doorway, towels around the client's shoulders. A car has stopped in the street. Everyone go about your own business, the white one says. No, sir, says Tim. This is our business. The black cop keeps his knee on Daddy's back as he searches him. He pats him down once, twice, 3 times, just like 115 did to Khalil. Nothing. Larry, the white cop says. The black one, who must be Larry, looks up at him, then at all the people who have gathered around. Larry takes his knee off Daddy's back and stands. Get up, he says. Slowly, Daddy gets to his feet. Larry glances at me. Bile pools in my mouth. Bile is that feeling of you're just about to throw up. It's from your liver. It gives you that awful throw up taste. He turns to Daddy and says, I'm keeping an eye on you, boy. Remember that. Daddy's jaw looks rock hard. The cops drive off. The car that had stopped in the street leaves, and all of the onlookers go about their business. One person hollers out, It's all right, Maverick. Daddy looks up at the sky and blinks the way I do when I don't want to cry. He clenches and unclenches his hands. Mr. Lewis touches his back. Come on, son. He guides Daddy our way, but they pass us and go into the store. Tim follows them. Why did they do Daddy like that? Sakani asks softly. He looks at me and Seven with tears in his eyes. Seven wraps an arm around him. I don't know, man. I know. I go in the store. Devante leans against a broom near the cash register, wearing one of those ugly green aprons. Daddy tries to make me and Seven wear when we work in the store. There's a pang in my chest. Khalil wore one too. So now she's having flashbacks of her friend. Devante's talking to Kenya as she holds a basket full of groceries. When the bell on the door clangs behind me, both of them look my way. Yo, what happened? Devante asks. Was that the cops outside? Says Kenya. From here, I see Mr. Lewis and Tim standing in the doorway of Daddy's office. He must be in there. Yeah, I answer, Kenya heading toward the back. Kenya and Devante follow me, asking about 50 million questions that I don't have time to answer. Papers are scattered all over the office floor. Daddy's hunched over his desk, his back moving up and down with each heavy breath. He pounds the desk. And you see the F word. Daddy once told me there's rage passed down to every black man from his ancestors, born the moment they couldn't stop the slave masters from hurting their families. Daddy also said there's nothing more dangerous than when that rage is activated. Let it out, son, Mr. Lewis tells him. And he says, F them pigs, man, Tim says. They only did that stuff because they know about Star. Wait, what? Daddy glances over his shoulder. His eyes are puffy and wet, like he's been crying. What you talking about, Tim? One of the homeboys saw you, Lisa, and your baby girl getting out an ambulance at the crime scene that night, Tim says. Word spread around the neighborhood, and folks think she's the witness they've been talking about on the news. Oh. Star, go ring Kenya up, Daddy says. Vontae, finish them floors. I head for the cash register, passing Seven and Sakani. The neighborhood knows. I ring Kenya up, my stomach knotted the whole time. If the neighborhood knows, it won't be long until people outside of Garden Heights know. And then what? You rang that up twice, Kenya says. Huh? The milk. You rang it up twice, Star. Oh. I cancel one of the milks and put the carton in the bag. Or into a bag. Kenya's probably cooking for herself and Lyric tonight. She does that sometimes. I ring up the rest of the stuff, take her money, and hand her the change. She stares at me a second, then says, Were you really the one with him? My throat is thick. Does it matter? Yeah, it matters. Why you keeping quiet about it? Like you hiding or something. Don't say it that way. But it is that way, right? I sigh. Kenya, stop. You don't understand, all right? Kenya folds her arm. What's to understand? A lot. I don't mean to yell, but damn, I can't go around telling people that stuff. Why not? Because you ain't see what the cops just did to my dad, because they know I'm the witness. We're going to stop there. Our next reading will continue tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget, you'll want to check for the Love of Reading or novel study projects to help earn some credit. Make sure to use your ideas and information from our daily readings to help support your opinions and submit those artifacts so you can get some credit. We'll be back again tomorrow for your last Dear session before spring break. Thanks for joining us.